Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Location: Konoha, specific location: Hokage's tower rooftop. AARRRRGGGGHHHHHH. Tsunade released a powerful drop kick on top of Orochimaru, who managed to catch her foot in time. However, the force of Tsunade's kick was so strong and powerful Orochimaru couldn't keep his grip on it and had to let go and retreat, which caused her foot to smash onto the rooftop. Crap, Tsunade said. We don't want to destroy the tower, Tsunade. Jiraiya called out. Suddenly Orochimaru attempted to strike Jiraiya from the left side of his ribs with his palm like a dagger. That was until Gaara's sands moved in a blocked Orochimaru's path before he disappeared in a flash. Orochimaru jumped up high in the air before turning and twisting his body to avoid the strikes from the sands that were moving like a thick stream of lines like a snake in the air. The sands were raised high in the air, higher than anyone could jump, then smashing down onto Orochimaru, covering his whole body in the sands. Jiraiya landed next to Gaara. Careful, Gaara. Knowing Orochimaru, I doubt it will take anything like that to kill that bastard. Jiraiya glared seriously at the now flattened sands, which were supposed to have Orochimaru in it. The sands blew up, covering the entire area in sand which were in the air before being pulled back to form a large blob of it, with Orochimaru nowhere to be seen. Where did Orochimaru? Boom. The area where Gaara had once stood suddenly disappeared in splinters of wood, revealing a large snake as wide as an anaconda reaching for Gaara with its teeth. That was before Tsunade jumped in and kicked the snake from the back, sending it through the tower's rooftop to the ground itself. Gaara's sands caught him in a levitating platform of itself. I told you to be careful of the tower. Jiraiya reminded with annoyance in his voice. Are you the Hokage of this tower? Tsunade glared at Jiraiya. No. In my tower I can do whatever I want with it. I'll even pay for the repairs myself if I have to. Tsunade said as she looked at Orochimaru with a serious glare. Orochimaru just came out of the rooftop, breaking a hole in the tower's rooftop and looking at Tsunade with a smug smirk on his face. Such kind words for a lady who disrespected the Hokage's names back when we first met after years of your absence. Orochimaru reminded. And I regret those words more than anything. Tsunade proclaimed. Tsunade rushed in with a chakra-infused punch for Orochimaru. Tsunade punched Orochimaru, but her punch went through his whole body, which was made out of snakes. The tiny snakes then wrapped themselves around Tsunade, slowly pulling her in. Tsunade grabbed Orochimaru's shoulder with her right hand, trying to push herself out, her whole body slowly turning sideways like planks. Her breasts pressed against the snakes before submerging into the pile. Her struggles to free her trapped arm were futile as her shoulders were pulled under as well, leaving her to tilt her head backwards as she saw both Gaara and Jiraiya upside down with her vision. Tsunade, Jiraiya said before rushing to Tsunade. But he was cut off when Orochimaru appeared in front of him, stabbing his arm inside Jiraiya's gut. Blood slowly dripped from the newly opened wound on his gut. Gaara gritted his teeth before gesturing his hands to wrap a sand-like tentacle around Jiraiya's waist, pulling the toad sage towards him, then surrounding himself and Jiraiya with a sand dome. Orochimaru smiled at his success, before turning his gaze at Tsunade, who was still sinking inside of Orochimaru's clone. All that remained of Tsunade were her nose and eyes, before her nose was pulled in. Her eyes told anger before slowly the snakes closed around them, then pulled her hair in. Her arm flailed, trying to grab anything it could find to pull herself out before her fingers were finally pulled in. Orochimaru's clone that pulled Tsunade in suddenly deformed into snakes before forming a pillar of themselves, slowly crushing Tsunade to death. Inside the pillar, Tsunade was holding her hands against the sizes, each one side while pushing. Her face was riddled with struggle. Her breasts pushed against each other tight by the pillars. Got to get out before I'm crushed to death. Tsunade struggled to say her words due to her near loss of oxygen. Even after I trained, he's still too strong. Tsunade said. But I think I'm missing the bigger picture. It's Naruto. I'm sure Naruto is what they're after. Tsunade said. But before I try to beat Orochimaru, I need to get out first. Arg. Tsunade yelled in pain when the walls started to close in harder, squeezing the air out of Tsunade's lungs. Katsuyu! Tsunade exclaimed. Unlike the snakes and toads, the slugs can multiply and resize their shape at will. If I use Katsuyu, I can get out of here and fight Orochimaru without destroying the tower. Tsunade said. Tsunade suddenly felt something at her legs and looked down to see snakes slowly flood them like water, coming up higher and higher to her waist level. I should do it now before I suffocate. Tsunade said as the snakes made it to her breasts. She bit her thumb, which leaked a bit of blood, and used her other arms as a base. The snakes made it past her breasts into her chin. Summoning jutsu. Tsunade yelled just before her head had submerged beneath the snakes. Her arms and hands were then submerged as well, but a shadowy dark figure came from her arm where their seals and started to grow bigger and bigger. On the outside, Orochimaru was bringing his hand towards the sand dome. He laid his hand on the dome without doing anything. Sounds technology doesn't only give the user enhanced capabilities or strength. Orochimaru's hand vibrated so fast it was more of a blur now. The sand dome soon crumbled into pieces. But it also gives the user more areas of skill than they would to learn them. Orochimaru finished. Gaara raised his hand up and attempted to use the fallen sand to either attack Orochimaru or rebuild the dome again, while having his other hand on the hole of Jiraiya's gut where Orochimaru had made, which was sealed up with sand as well. Sure, sand wouldn't be the best and it would be painful, but it did keep the organs and the blood from flowing out. But to the current Casecage's shock, his sands refused to move an inch. What? Gaara was in disbelief since this had never happened before. I forgot to tell you, Casecage-sama, Orochimaru chuckled with a sarcastic tone in his voice. But the vibrations from the device had removed all traces of your chakra from the sands. Which means no matter what you do, your sands will never move until more chakra is infused in them. Orochimaru explained. While I wasn't your Casecage for long, I was allowed to look through your family's secrets of how you transferred your chakra into sands and what methods you used. Which means I also know how long of a process it will take. Orochimaru chuckled at the growling Gaara. 72 hours. It will take 3 days before your chakra returns to the sands. Orochimaru chuckled again. Oh Orochimaru, why you will never. Never get away with this, Jiraiya said weakly. Oh, even when you're so weak and injured, you still refuse to stay down. You were always the type to never give up, just like that student of yours Naruto. Orochimaru said with a chuckle. But this is where your road ends. Orochimaru said. From Orochimaru's right hands formed a snake with its tongue stretching out as far as possible before hardening into a blade. Orochimaru held the blade to his own chest and said, "This is the end for your Jiraiya, and you took the container of the Shukaku." Orochimaru raised his blade high in the air. Gaara closed his eyes, prepared for the worst while Jiraiya's weak eyes slowly started to close. So, this is how it ends, huh? Dying on top of the old man's tower. If only I told Tsunade how I felt about her. If only I told her. If only I did. Jiraiya had his last thoughts about a picture of the slug Sannin before shutting his eyes completely, looking at the sky, prepared for death. And thus, was the end of the Toad Sannin and the new Casecage of Sand Village. Or as they thought. GWAK. A large lump appeared on the snake pillar. It was loud, so Orochimaru stopped his blade just before it could touch Jiraiya's hair even a little. Orochimaru looked back in concern. Then all of a sudden multiple bumps and sounds were heard from those very pillars, which grew bigger, bigger and bigger before finally. Boom! The snakes flew in all directions, landing everywhere on the rooftop, including on the barrier, which burnt them into a crisp. The ones that survived then slithered away in panic. There was a large puff of smoke that covered the rooftop, making Orochimaru hold his arms over his face to block the smoke from entering, before it all finally cleared away. Thank Katsuyu. Tsunade thanks, on one knee on what appeared to be a large slug she was on. It had long eyes and white skin with a blue spiky strip on its back. Tsunade-sama, what appears to be a problem? Katsuyu asked. That is the problem. Tsunade replied, pointing down with her finger now standing up straight with her other hand in a fist against her hip. The giant creature looked down where Tsunade was pointing at and saw Orochimaru standing there with his arms still crossed in front of his face. Orochimaru, I see what you mean. Katsuyu said. It appears he may have his chakra back. Care to explain? Katsuyu said with her eyes pointing to Tsunade. We don't have the time for a detailed answer, but here's what I'm gonna say. That man has a device on his wrists which is also connected to the other parts of his body where chakra does flow, and he's taking it to his hands. At the moment we're being invaded by sand, again. Your job is to finish him off. Don't worry about the snake boss. Orochimaru wouldn't dare to attempt that in a barrier like this. Tsunade explained. Then I'll finish him off as quickly as I can. Katsuyu said. Orochimaru growled in frustration, looking at Tsunade with angry and warrior-like eyes, with Tsunade returning the glare as well, before changing it to Jiraiya's location. You'd better not die on me, you old pervert. You and I are the only people Naruto might have left close to family. You die and not only will she never forgive you, but neither would I, so just stand still and wait till I heal you. Tsunade thought with determination before looking back at Orochimaru. Location: forest. Neji, Sasuke, Hinata, Shino and Tenten all jumped from branch to branch towards the team that went for Naruto. How do we know where Naruto is? Shino asked. Don't you feel that? There's an immense chakra pressure coming from that direction. Neji replied. And it's something I remember all too well. Neji's eyes started to narrow more and more into a deadly glare. And it's Saraisu's chakra. Neji finished. Saraisu. You mean that jerk that almost killed you in the Chunin exams? Tenten asked. I couldn't even forget about his chakra even when I wanted to. But it feels like he's fighting someone strong. Neji replied. You don't think Naruto might have regained his consciousness and started fighting Saraisu? Shino suggested. I really hope not. Besides, if it was Naruto, I would sense some of the Kyuubi's chakra even from this distance, yet another chakra signature I will never forget even if I tried to. Besides, this chakra signature feels a lot different than Naruto's, so I believe the person Saraisu must be fighting might be one of us. Neji explained. I also sense 3 of them working together with outstanding teamwork. Neji informed. Most likely Shikamaru, Ino and Choji are the ones fighting Saraisu. It wouldn't surprise me if they are handling him well considering their teamwork and the effort they put into their fights. Shino said. But I do believe that is the least of our worries. Shino said. What do you mean, Shino? Hinata asked shyly. It's about Ayato. When he used that shadow of his in his fight against Naruto, something was off. I don't think that shadow was just a jutsu or a move, I sense something more to it, something rather demonic. Shino replied, explaining to the others what he felt. So, I was interested. I released the smallest insects I had onto Ayato's skin without him noticing them and returned them to me after the first minutes of their battle. The second they came back they just died all of a sudden. Shino explained. As I hear the Aburame insect is strong when it comes to measuring chakra. So, this happening to your insects is an unusual behavior, am I correct? Sasuke said to Shino, looking at Aburame with emotionless eyes. Indeed. Shino confirmed. To be honest, another reason this led to that conclusion was because I did the exact same thing to Naruto with his Kyuubi's chakra when we all fought him. I was forced to retract my insects before the chakra could kill them. And that's not the half of it, Shino said, which everyone began to wonder what he was referring to. Before my insects died, they gave me information about his chakra, and something rather strange came up. Ayato, for some strange reason, has Naruto's chakra signatures all over his body, small parts of it within his body. Shino explained, which made Tenten gasp. Hang on a minute. Tenten looked at Shino with shocked eyes. You're not suggesting Ayato had some connection to Naruto, are you? She looked at Shino with a shocked wide-open expression on her face. We all saw it, Tenten. He used the Kopi, which is usually a bloodline only the 4th Hokage and the Namikaze clan possess. Shino explained. I have no idea why, but there seems to be a connection between them. Shino said, making everyone question the whole thing about Ayato. Location. Forest. Specific location. The Naruto rescue team. Clash. Saraisu's chakra saber had met Shikamaru's kunai before both had jumped a fair distance away from one another. Saraisu looked at Shikamaru with a serious glare, before feeling the presence of someone else and looked up to see Choji with expanded hands coming down upon him with large fists. Before Choji's fists could come into contact with Saraisu, Saraisu jumped away, dodging Choji's fists just before he crashed his fist down to the ground, smashing it to pieces. It appeared behind Saraisu, throwing a swarm of tiny shurikens at him. Saraisu used his chakra saber to block all of those shurikens before landing on the ground on his feet. All of a sudden, Saraisu's whole body stopped moving, and he looked backwards to see Shikamaru holding him in his shadow possession jutsu. Saraisu's shadow connected to Shikamaru's shadow. Shadow stitching is complete, Shikamaru said with a smirk. I can see I underestimated you, Nara. I heard from the last Chunin exams you got Tamari in a shadow possession. All you had to do was make her surrender and the win could have been yours, but instead you chose to forfeit the match despite the fact that you would have won. Saraisu reminded. Now why would you do that? Saraisu asked, his pupils going to the corners trying to take a look at Shikamaru. If I did, people would start bragging about it. Shikamaru replied. It's a lot easier if I just simply gave up the match so no one would start bragging about me. Also, I didn't want to become Chunin because of the hard work I would need to do to maintain my status. It's all just too much of a drag. Shikamaru explained to Saraisu. But as far as you can see, they made me a Chunin anyway. Shikamaru said. Honestly, how dishonorable, any person who made Chunin would consider it a great honor to become one. Saraisu spat. Yeah. Shikamaru rolled his eyes. Then Choji and Ino walked by Shikamaru, standing there looking at Saraisu. So, tell me, what is this genjutsu you speak of using against Naruto to release the 9 tails inside of him on Konoha? Shikamaru said. I have nothing to say to you, Nara. Saraisu said with a venomous voice. Shikamaru gave a heavy sigh. Well, looks like we're doing this the hard way. Shikamaru had readjusted his fingers a little, which created a shadow-like tentacle on the ground slowly slithering around Saraisu's neck. Ino's eyes had widened in pure shock, looking at her teammate with a questionable look. Shish, Shikamaru. Why you're not goanna torture him, are you? Ino exclaimed with shock. It's not like we have much of a choice, Ino. The fate of the Leaf Village depends on it. Plus he is also our enemy, our foe, one who's part of the exact same village invading us right now. Shikamaru said. I think we can all agree that diplomacy has failed. Shikamaru looked at Ino, before changing his look onto Saraisu again. Foolish N Nara. Saraisu chalked, feeling the shadow-like tentacle move around his neck, ready to squeeze it. I will. N never, ever. Tell you anything about ORP plan, even if it means I have to die. Saraisu's breath started to slow down more and more, his oxygen no longer able to enter or leave his throat. His eyes twitched a bit before finally collapsing onto the ground due to the loss of oxygen by Shikamaru's shadows. Shikamaru dropped his jutsu before walking towards Saraisu, placing his fingers on his neck to get any sort of pulse. Is he? Ino said with a concerned glare. Even if Saraisu was at one time trying to kill Neji, her friend, the thought of killing another living being was too much for Ino even as a shinobi. No, I made sure to cut a certain amount of oxygen off from Saraisu until the time was right. I waited until he would eventually lose consciousness from the loss of oxygen, then I let him go to make sure he's still alive. Shikamaru explained, meaning Saraisu's status. I'm sure the Hokage would like to get her hands on at least one prisoner who was part of the main plan to take Konoha down. Shikamaru said, before he slowly moved his hands towards Saraisu ready to carry him. Don, you dare touch my friend. Shikamaru looked up to see a now standing and healed Ayato rushing over to Saraisu's body, throwing a kunai at Shikamaru. Shikamaru jumped backwards to protect himself from the kunai. Ayato landed in front of Saraisu before picking him up on his shoulder. Looks like you got a little careless. Arg, Ayato said, but after he finished his sentence, he fell to one knee, still feeling the pain over his body due to the loss of his chakra. Ayato. Choji called out. Why are you doing this, Ayato? Shikamaru said. You know exactly why. My parents were killed by Konoha shinobi as a mistake. How do you think they will ever get the justice they deserve? Ayato said to Shikamaru with angered eyes. It's not justice, Ayato. It's revenge. Choji said. What you're doing isn't justice. It's called revenge. Don't you understand what Orochimaru will do when Konoha is destroyed? He will execute innocent civilians, he will kill innocent lives and tear children away from their parents. Choji said more. Do you really call that justice? If you do that, you won't be better than the leaf shinobi that killed them. As soon as Choji finished this sentence, Ayato's eyes opened wide with rage and anger. Don't you dare use their demise as a comparison to me. Ayato yelled with rage before lifting his palm up, pointing it towards Choji's location, which started to fill up with shadow chakra while rage and anger was building up in his body. Shikamaru took a fighting stance while Choji stood there all shocked. Stop it. Ayato felt someone rush to his right side of his body and hug his arm. He looked to the right to see Ino holding it. Please just stop, Ayato. Ino yelled. I know you're not the type to hurt innocent people. Just please stop, Ino said as small tears formed in her eyes. Ino, Ayato said silently. It's impossible, I have a job to do. As a shinobi from another village, I have to fulfill this job. However, Ayato said, as he took a few steps from Ino, separating her from his arm. I, kinda like you, since we were part of a temporary team in the Chunin exams, so I'm gonna cut you a deal, Ayato said, as Ino looked into his eyes. Orochimaru and the Otokage-sama only want Konoha. The people who are not Tsunade, Jiraiya, or the higher-ups are free to leave to stay alive as long as they don't get in the way of the plan. Understandably, I know that the village is your home, but there's not a chance in the world I can convince my leaders to stop, Ayato explained. Sound is my home, so if I give up on the plan or sabotage it, then I'm a traitor to my home, so I can't do that either. Ayato looked down on the ground with guilty eyes. But that doesn't mean I can let you go. If you three run away, join Sand since they aren't a part of the invasion, then you could live long lives. Ayato explained. But what about Naruto? Shikamaru asked. Naruto. Ayato replied, looking down on the ground. He is an important part of Orochimaru's plans, not just for this Konoha invasion, but he has bigger ideas for Naruto as well. Ayato explained. Wait, you mean using Naruto for the invasion is just a small plan for a bigger one? Choji exclaimed. Yes, but I have no idea what that plan is. All Orochimaru said was, I have far more grander plans for Naruto. That's all what Orochimaru said. Ayato explained. I'm so sorry, Ayato. Shikamaru apologized. You're right, you are part of a different village. Whether this is for revenge or not, this is your duty to attack Konoha under the orders of your kage. Shikamaru said as he closed his eyes slowly, facing his head down with disappointment. Shikamaru. Ino said. The offer sounds good, Ayato, but we'll have to deny that. Shikamaru then opened his eyes and returned his glare to Ayato, lifting his head up to him. We too have a duty to our kage. Our Hokage ordered us to take Naruto back, so that's what we're gonna do no matter what. Shikamaru looked at Ayato with a serious glare. Even if it means we have to kill you. Shikamaru said. Shikamaru. Don't. Ino tried to convince her cloud-watching friend. Ino. Shikamaru gave a small yell. This is what we signed up for. This is the type of enemy we face today. Shikamaru said aggressively to show his seriousness. We have our orders, and he has his. A shinobi can't deny their leader's orders and they can never go against the mission no matter what. Because if that's the case then, we may as well throw away our headbands and stop calling ourselves shinobi. Shikamaru finished his sentence which shocked Ino, making her realize her situation. Choji looked at his Nara friend and said or responded nothing. He had to agree with Shikamaru. There is only one choice, Ayato said as he then took a fighting stance against Shikamaru. Shikamaru looked at Ayato, and then thought, the mission comes ahead of anything else. So why is he going to fight us instead? Location. Forest. Specific location, Naruto. Naruto's unconscious body laid there for a while before Sakura came next to him, shaking him. Naruto-kun. Naruto-kun please wake up. Naruto-kun. Naruto-kun please. Sakura shook Naruto hoping he would wake up soon. Naruto's eyes suddenly opened slowly, before looking at Sakura. Sakura-chan, Naruto said, as he leaned forward in a sitting position. What time is it? Naruto started his eyes from sleep. Hang on a minute, wasn't I fighting Ayato? Naruto said as he looked at Sakura, who wiped a tear from her eye before throwing her arms around him and hugging him. I'm so happy you're okay. Sakura said. Sakura-chan, what's going on? Why are we here? Naruto kept saying before she pulled away to look at him. It's a slightly long story. Sakura said, before she started to explain her story to Naruto. It took a few minutes, a little while, before she finally wrapped her story up. During that time Naruto's eyes looked down on the ground in shame. Invasion. Orochimaru. Ayato. Namikaze. Attack. Naruto spat as he continued to look down on the ground in shame before returning his look to Sakura's which told him how sorry she was. And me. Or should I say Kyuubi? The damn furball. Why? Why does it have to be the furball all the time? Why does he have a thing in this? Why? Why? Naruto yelled in anger and rage. Naruto-kun, you need to calm down. Sakura said to her boyfriend. I'm sorry Sakura-chan. Naruto apologized to his girlfriend. It's just that, my life has been turned around a bit, that's all, the fourth Hokage being my father. Me being a Namikaze and this thing with the Kopi eyes, I just don't know what to say. Naruto said. It's bad enough that when I graduated, I found out the reason everyone in the village hates me so much is because I have the 9 tails inside of me. Then when I decided to finally give in I also found out that I'm a Namikaze, and my old man used me as a container to seal the furball away. Now I have an entire village after me so they could use the 9 tails to destroy my home, Naruto said slowly, feeling hurt inside. Am I really a curse? Am I really a danger to everyone around me? Naruto said with sad eyes, continuing to look down on the ground ahead of him. You're not a danger to me, Sakura said, which made Naruto look at her. Or to Sasuke, or Kakashi-sensei, or to Tsunade-sama, Jiraiya-sama, Ino Pig, Shikamaru, Choji, Hinata, Kiba, Akamaru, Shino, Tenten, Lee, Neji, Konohamaru, Udon, Moegi, Iruka-sensei, Gaara or anyone else in the matter, Sakura said. You're Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, the man who'll become the next Hokage of our village. You protected everyone, me, Sasuke, Kakashi-sensei, everybody. Sakura continued her sentence. Even when we gave into the darkness in our hearts, you found the will to pull us out. You gave us hope and a reason to believe in ourselves. You have a power that is something even Kyuubi doesn't have. The power to bring hope. Sakura finished as she looked at Naruto, smiling at him. Naruto smiled, happy for Sakura's words, then said, thanks Sakura-chan, I need to go, I'm gonna stop this whole thing before it could get worse. Naruto stood up on his own 2 feet, but then he started to collapse to one knee. Naruto-kun, please be careful. I don't think you fully recovered yet after using the Kopi to use the Sharingan yet. Sakura said, as she went by Naruto's side. Well, that's a damn shame. Both Naruto and Sakura felt shivers on their backs as they slowly turned around to see who spoke those words with a dark tone. It was a man, a muscular tall old man. His skin was blue and made of scales. His teeth were as sharp as that of a shark's, his eyes the same as a shark as well. Dark blue spiky hair, a large sword over his shoulder. And he wore a sound headband on his forehead, and he also wore a dark wide coat around him with a wide collar. It was Orochimaru's plan to get the Kyuubi out from you to destroy Konoha. Hehehehe. He looked at Naruto and Sakura with a smirk that showed he was craving for blood. I'm sorry, I must have forgotten to say my name, he apologized. He brought a hand with sharp nails also covered with scales to his chest pointing at himself. I heard about Zabuza's demise at Wave Country. I heard his companion Haku was killed by Genins from the Leaf, and Kakashi Hatake the copycat shinobi. In fact, I met him myself, with you as well, brat. He laughed. Naruto's eyes widened with shock and horror upon the look of this man, a man he saw once in his life that scared him from first sight. My name is Kisame, and I am a former member of the Akatsuki. I was with Itachi to hunt you down, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, Kisame said with a smirk. Suddenly, the two Genins felt a large amount of chakra pressure pouring down on them. Fear, horror, scared, they have so many emotions they are terrified of with Kisame and are now afraid to fight him. Location: Konoha, specific location, Hokage's tower. Boom. Katsuyu threw her own tail at Orochimaru, who caught it with his hands before they started to burn with fire, cooking her tail. In a whimper of pain, Katsuyu pulled her own tail away from Orochimaru before Tsunade jumped towards him, sending a powerful drop kick upon him. Orochimaru jumped back and dodged the kick before doing a series of hand signs. Fire style. Fire wave. Orochimaru shouted, before a large wave of fire came out of the Sannin's mouth towards Tsunade, who in return did a series of hand signs on her own. Earth style. Earth wall. Tsunade yelled, as she slammed both of her hands down on the rooftop's ground where her chakra was channeled to the walls and then to the actual ground itself, forming a wall as fast as possible through the building, slightly damaging it. Boom. The fire was slammed on the wall, dispersing everywhere before the flames died out in the winds. Tsunade was panting crazily in tire. She looked at Orochimaru with angered eyes before he laughed. Tsunade, you're not as young as you used to be, why don't you just surrender? Orochimaru said. Never. Tsunade yelled, as she rushed towards Orochimaru. Orochimaru rushed towards Tsunade as well. Katsuyu swung her tail for a second time at Orochimaru, but he dodged the tail and, in a flash, he appeared right in front of Tsunade and, stab. He stabbed Tsunade with his hand in the gut just like he did with Jiraiya. Tsunade-sama, Katsuyu exclaimed. You. Tsunade coughed up a little blood from her mouth, before looking at Orochimaru with shocked eyes. Tsunade, if only you healed my hands when we first met after decades apart, I would have spared your life. I am so sorry it had to end this way. Orochimaru chuckled at the dying sage. No, Orochimaru. Grab. I'm the one who's sorry. Tsunade yelled after she grabbed Orochimaru's wrists where the devices were on and started to use her immense strength to crush them into pieces. Orochimaru's eyes widened in both shock and fear as he attempted to pull away from Tsunade's grip, only for the pain to be too much for him to move. He gave a yell and so did Tsunade, who used every ounce of her current strength she had left so far to destroy the devices, which fell into pieces down to the ground itself. Now crumbled into nothing more but metal scraps waiting to be picked up. Once Tsunade let go of Orochimaru's wrists, he looked at his hands. One of them was covered in blood, of course, from being in Tsunade's gut. He looked at some metal scraps that were now in his skin, bleeding now, and feeling the chakra from his hands slowly disappear, now unable to perform any source of ninjutsu whatsoever. Looks like you lost your trump card, Orochimaru, Tsunade said, as she started to heal herself from the wound which slowly disappeared. The hole Orochimaru made was no longer there, now replaced with Tsunade's skin now covering it. Orochimaru hissed angrily at Tsunade, before looking back at his arms to inspect the damage for another time. Without that device, Orochimaru, you are unable to use your chakra once again. Plus, since you trapped yourself in this barrier, you know you cannot summon your snake. Katsuyu luckily can reduce and increase her size and her mass whenever she wants to, so she cannot damage the tower at all. Tsunade said. Am I right, Jiraiya? Tsunade tilted her head to the side to take a look at Jiraiya. Orochimaru looked back, only for his eyes to widen in shock when he saw Jiraiya on his 2 feet holding a miniature Katsuyu on his gut where the hole was slowly being healed. I couldn't agree more, Jiraiya said, as he panted. Sand saber, Gaara said, as he held his arm out where the remaining sand he could use after taking back to block Jiraiya's wound formed a sharp sword-like sand sculpture hardening itself around his right arm. Orochimaru looked back at Tsunade with his teeth gritting, then back at Jiraiya and Gaara then back to Tsunade. With the loss of his hands and his inability to summon his snakes he had no choice. I've got no choice, Orochimaru cursed, as he grabbed a piece of his own cloth on his right shoulder with his teeth then ripped it, spitting it away revealing a purple kanji-colored seal on his shoulder. Orochimaru then placed his tongue on the seal where then the whole barrier soon dissipated. I'm guessing the Otokage wasn't the only one who could set up that seal, huh? Jiraiya commented as he looked at Orochimaru with disappointed eyes. My student, we shall leave immediately, Orochimaru called out, before Tsunade started to rush to him. And give you the chance to attack Konoha again? I don't think so. I'm ending all of this before it could happen ever again, Tsunade said with determination as she pulled her fist back and attempted to punch Orochimaru. Once Tsunade punched Orochimaru they were covered in a thick layer of dust and smoke. Soon that disappeared revealing the Otokage holding Tsunade's fist, before throwing her back, which she landed on her 2 feet. Kakashi and Shizune arrived at the scene following the Otokage, along with a bunch of Konoha and Sand Shinobi surrounding them in a circle. Give it up, Orochimaru. You're surrounded, there's no chance of escape for you. Tsunade gave her warning to her former teammate, but Orochimaru only scoffed in anger, before looking at the Otokage. Sensei, what do we do? The Otokage asked, his katana pointing at Tsunade. We don't have a choice, Orochimaru replied. If Ayato hasn't finished his mission on Naruto, then we have no choice but to call for a full retreat for now. Orochimaru gave a serious angered glare to the Otokage. Call all the troops to escape the village, have the sound genins delivered back to base so I can train them to grow strong enough to kill the Junin elite, and get the Akatsuki back to the base too. Orochimaru ordered, still angered at this defeat. Yes, Sensei, the Otokage said, as he did a series of hand signs, before putting his fingers down on the ground. 3 Konoha Anbu shinobi then jumped towards Orochimaru and the Otokage to stop them, with the leader saying, Stop them. We can't let them get away. You fool. Don't. Jiraiya yelled, before he groaned in pain, falling back down to his knees. Suddenly, a beam of yellow light fell upon Orochimaru and the Otokage, covering them. The Anbu attempted to get them but once they touched the light they burned to a crisp and were launched towards the buildings of Konoha by the force of the light. We can't let them get away, Shizune said, as she attempted to lunge for Orochimaru and the Otokage, only for Kakashi to grab her shoulder and stop her. What are you doing? Shizune exclaimed. Shizune, stand down, Tsunade ordered her assistant, before giving her a serious look, then turning it to Orochimaru and the Otokage. Sealing Jutsu. Transportation Light. The Otokage said. This jutsu envelops anyone who's in it as a protective barrier against opponents. Like the Anbu before you had tried, anyone or tries to get near the light or touch it will die. It will also teleport me and my mentor to the nearest checkpoint we set up as a precaution in case if we had to retreat. The Otokage explained to the others. Suddenly, Orochimaru's and the Otokage's feet started to disappear, following the rest of their bodies from the toe to head. You coward! You attacked Konoha, then you fell with your tail between your legs. Tsunade gave a growl of anger to Orochimaru. I'm simply just retreating for now, Tsunade. After all, Naruto is part of the main plan. Orochimaru said. This battle is not over, not until Ayato casts that genjutsu he copied through his copy on Naruto, leaving the Nine Tails to rampage through the village. That's something even with the help of sand can't stop. Orochimaru gave chuckle to Tsunade. Soon, his entire body disappeared in the light along with the Otokages, never to be seen in a while. The light then disappeared as well. Damn. Tsunade cursed in anger. She looked at the Anbu. Do we know where Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze is? Tsunade said. I sent the Genins, including my own team, to retrieve him along with Hinata. Tsunade looked at Kakashi, who was the one that said that. Since Naruto has the Kyuubi's chakra in him, I suspect my dogs can find him. Kakashi explained as he did a series of finger signs before putting them on the ground, summoning 2 small dogs on the spot. Good. Kakashi, Shizune, I need the 2 of you to clean things up here in Konoha while I go and find Naruto. Tsunade ordered. But Tsunade-sama, we need you here in Konoha to lead our forces to remove the Sound Army. Shizune objected to her mentor. Trust me, Shizune, the way Naruto sees me is more like a mother than a leader. Also, what happens if Naruto has already lost control of the Kyuubi's chakra? We need to help him emotionally by having those closest to him help. Tsunade looked at Shizune with a serious glare. Since I'm one of those people, I think it's best I go. Also, if Naruto is part of their main plan, then Sound is gonna throw as much as possible to us in order to awaken the Kyuubi in him. Tsunade explained. Well, you're not going anywhere without me, Tsunade. Jiraiya protested. Forget it, Jiraiya. I might be able to heal even the most fatal wounds, but I can't heal you at the speed of light. It'll take some time before that wound fully heals. Tsunade explains. My student is in danger and so is your future student. Do you really think I'm gonna sit this one down without a fight? Jiraiya said. Tsunade gave a simple sigh before looking at Jiraiya with serious eyes. Fine, you come with me, but we leave immediately. Tsunade said. Location. Forest. Naruto and Sakura looked at Kisame with eyes of fear. The shark look-alike chuckled at Naruto, who stood in front of Sakura in a protective position, gritting his teeth. I haven't seen you in a long time, child. Kisame said, as he looked deeper into Naruto's eyes. The last time I saw you, Itachi said it wasn't the time to take you yet. Kisame threw his sword over his shoulder with a tap. You mean Sasuke's brother? Sakura asked. Yes, that other little kid as well. Kisame replied. Kisame looked at Naruto's eyes, now turning into rage and anger from remembering his past. You. Naruto growled. You and your friend hurt Sasuke. You hurt my friend. Naruto continued, raging his anger on Kisame with his words. That little kid wasn't even part of the plan. Originally we wanted to take you because you have the 9 tails inside of you. Kisame said. But times have changed. After Orochimaru beat Obito in his fight, he became our new leader. But a little bit of a handful of us decided to leave with their respect towards Obito when he left. Kisame explained. As part of the plan, they were meant to use you as a weapon against Konoha. Kisame pointed his large sword at Naruto. So, in order to do that, you would have to be close to, let's say, a near-death experience. Kisame said in a chuckle. Both Naruto and Sakura took a step back, preparing to run. You can try and run away as fast as you like if you want to. But I highly recommend that you do not. After all, my strength is comparable to Zabuza's strength, and you know as much as I do that I will catch up to you and stop you or kill you if you try. The shark man gave an evil smirk to the 2 kids. Naruto growled at him with anger, but that was the same as admitting the truth. Naruto then grabbed a kunai from his pouch in one hand, then formed a Rasengan in the other, then looked at Kisame with determined eyes that told the man that he was gonna beat him. Sakura-chan, when I fight, I want you to run as fast and far away from here as possible. Naruto said in a serious tone. I'm not leaving, not this time. Sakura said, as she prepared herself for the worst. Location: a few miles from where Naruto and Sakura were at. Jiraiya and Tsunade were at high speed in the forest following Kakashi's hounds as they rushed to get to their future students. Both were jumping from branch to branch as they were closing the gap as the dogs had told them that the two genins' stench were getting stronger and stronger, which meant they were getting closer and closer. Jiraiya held his gut in slight pain, which Tsunade had noticed. I think it might be best if you had stayed behind, Tsunade said to her former teammate. You think I'll just let you save your grandson without my help? Jiraiya spoke back in a serious tone. I won't, Jiraiya said. Tsunade looked down on the ground in shame, before looking back at Jiraiya saying, when I returned to Konoha you knew Naruto was the son of the fourth Hokage. But how did you know? Tsunade took a brief pause. That Minato was my son, she asked with sadness in her voice. I was his mentor, Tsunade, Jiraiya replied. It wasn't difficult to figure it out, you know. He had Dan's eyes in his face, he had your hair, and he also knew a little bit more of Senju's than anyone else did. He even had your chakra, Jiraiya explained. He looked at Tsunade's guilty expression. What upsets me more was the fact you abandoned your own son, Jiraiya added. I'm sorry, Tsunade apologized. I was selfish. I ignored a lot of people around me, Tsunade said. Ever since Nawaki died, my brother, I was lost, but Dan helped me to get back on my feet, but when he died before we could ever get married, I thought everyone around me was doomed to die no matter what. That's why I left Minto in Sarutobi-sensei's care, Tsunade explained. When I heard that you were taking care of Minato, I was happy that you were taking care of him, Tsunade explained, but her tone turned to slight sadness. Because Tsunade was cut off by Jiraiya. Don't say it. I know, Tsunade, I know. Tsunade's eyes grew with shock when Jiraiya interrupted her. Shizune told me, you practically were drunk one night and told her how you felt about me, Jiraiya said. Are you angry? Tsunade asked. Yes, I was, Jiraiya replied. But I wasn't angry at you for realizing how I felt about you. I'm angry because you left a child who always asked me who his mother was, but I never told him because I always believed if I did it would hurt him, especially when Kushina was brought into the picture, Jiraiya explained. You know what? Jiraiya said. That girl Sakura, the girl Naruto really likes, reminds me of Kushina. Strong, caring and concerned. That's who Kushina was. It's almost like she's a resurrected Kushina, brought back from the dead, Jiraiya said. Now that I think about it, during your travels all over the shinobi world you were teaching Kushina how to fight and heal people, Jiraiya reminded. You think Sakura would be a good candidate? Jiraiya asked. Yes, I think so, Tsunade replied, as they both sped up, going faster through the forest. Location: Naruto and Sakura. Sakura was on the ground, with a few slight cuts from Kisami's sword on her right side of her lower body as she looked with stinging eyes at the shark-like man with her lover. Naruto was on the ground in front of Kisame, but he was worse. His baggy jacket was now torn to shreds, revealing him in a black t-shirt with the Uzumaki symbol in the front. In front of the namikaze was his headband that Iruka had given him. Now that bands that held the metal part were ripped also, unable to put it back on. Kisame, however, was in perfect shape without a scratch on his body. He smirked and laughed before saying, "That was interesting. The two of you managed to survive 2 minutes, that's more than what I was expecting. I was expecting you to fall within 1 minute, not 2. Okay, enough playing around," Kisame said. "I know this kid called Ayato was supposed to use a genjutsu on you, but I have no idea where he is, and as far as I heard Orochimaru had already fed the village and Sound's forces are already leaving, which means it's time for Plan K." He smirked. "Kisame," he said. Kisame looked at Naruto, before turning his gaze towards Sakura, who was looking at him with fear. Maybe I'll start by killing her," Kisame said in a dark tone, before holding a hand out in the air which then started to form an orb of water. Water style. Water trident. Kisame said, as a trident formed out of nothing but water, before freezing solid. Kisame then threw the trident in the air before catching it, positioning the weapon towards Sakura's location. Naruto looked at Sakura, before looking at Kisame and yelled, "Stop it. This fight is with me and you. Goodbye, little girl," Kisame said, as he then threw the trident at high speed towards Sakura. Naruto gave a yell before Sakura closed her eyes, ready for the pain to be brought down upon her. But it didn't. Sakura opened her eyes to take a good look at the weapon, the tips of the blades just a few inches from her eyes. But that wasn't the part she was afraid of. She looked a little bit at a distance, to see Naruto, with the weapon through him, his back turned against Kisame and facing Sakura. His teeth were gritting, and a shadow covered his eyes from his hair before taking a look at Sakura with a smile. "I promise to protect you," Naruto said, before falling over to the ground, but Sakura caught him. Then the weapon broke into pieces on purpose by Kisame letting his jutsu go. "Naruto-kun," Sakura screamed, holding onto Naruto's bleeding and unconscious body. "Please. Please hang on. Please. Please." Sakura begged as tears started to pour down her eyes. "Well, that's not good," Kisame said with a wide eye. "Not a good thing if the Jinchuriki dies. If that happens, then the plan's a bust," Kisame said, as he started to approach Naruto's body. But Sakura grabbed a kunai from her pouch and rushed over Naruto's body on her knees while holding it against Kisame, who was a few meters away from them. "I won't let you get near him," she threatened in anger. Kisame looked at the angry Batiri Kunoichi as she laid her body over Naruto's in a protective position against the Akatsuki member. Kisame just smirked, before making his way to Naruto, continuing his last pace and heading towards the downed nine-tailed Jinchuriki. But then, boom! Two unknown figures crash-landed feet first to the ground, covering the area in dust. A few seconds passed and the figures were none other than Tsunade and Jiraiya themselves, who had their arms crossed and had serious glares in their faces, standing shoulder to shoulder, with their backs turned against Naruto and Sakura. Well, if it isn't the fifth Hokage and the Toad Sannin themselves. Kisame laughed. "I always wanted to challenge you, Jiraiya. I always thought how strong I was compared to a Sannin. I had the chance when we met in the hotel, but Itachi stopped me before I could ever lay a finger on you." Kisame added in a small chuckle. "We will not allow you to get anywhere close to Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze or Sakura Haruno," Jiraiya said. "You would have to get through us first before you even think about touching them," Tsunade said. "Fine by me. This will be nothing more but a little warm-up considering the damages and injuries you have, courtesy of Orochimaru." Kisame laughed again, before Jiraiya and Tsunade gave another serious glare at the Akatsuki member. Location. With Yo and How. "Damn it. I lost him," Yu cursed. "If only we knew where that dog breath was, it would be a lot easier." How added. "Speaking of, where do you think that explosion came from?" "Ayato maybe," Yo asked his brother. "I don't think so. The Ayato I saw was fighting those three-leaf shinobi who are part of a team I think called Team 10. How replied. "I think that fighting may have come from over there," How said, as he began to lean through the bushes and look at where the explosion may have come from. Only to have his eyes widen in shock as he looked behind Jiraiya's and Tsunade's backs to see Sakura holding protectively an unconscious and bloodied Naruto. Yo looked at his brother with a questioning look, before looking through the bushes himself. "Brother, what's Rune?" "Oh no," Yo said in both fear and disbelief. "You know what this means, brother. With the Nine Tails dead, the plan's a failure. We have to warn the forces immediately," How said in panic, as he grabbed from his pouch a small tube which had a kanji sign for flare, where he then pointed it in the air towards the sky before pulling a string on the tube which released a ball of red flames to the ground colored dark red. Location. With Sasuke's and Hinata's team. "What's that?" Hinata asked. "A flare of some sorts," Sasuke replied. Judging from the color of the flare, I would suggest that means Sound's plan had failed. Shino said. Which either means they managed to get Naruto out of there or Ayato has been killed or, Tenten gulped, trying not to think about what could have happened to her blonde Jinchuriki friend. Or Naruto has been killed. Neji finished for Tenten, which made concern for Naruto's health. Location: Konoha's streets. Anko and Iruka watched while fighting the remainder of Sound's forces as the flare rose up to the sky. The fighting stopped because of it. Look at that, a Sound shinobi called out. It's the flare. Another said. Judging from what color it is, I'd say that the plan failed. Retreat. Retreat. Another Sound shinobi said, as the others have followed. Genji looked at the flare with disgust, before looking at Anko and Iruka and said, "You're lucky that the plan failed, otherwise you would be dead." After saying these words, Genji then flashed away and left. Location: with Kiba, Akamaru, and Lee. The Genins landed in front of Tayuya, who stood there perfectly still while watching the flare rise up then fall down. She gritted her teeth before disappearing. Location: with Ayato, Shikamaru, Ino, and Choji. Ayato looked at the flare that was high in the air. Shikamaru, Choji and Ino looked up as well. Ayato turned his sights towards Ino, before saying, "It's over. The invasion is all over now. That flare means the plan has failed and so I must retreat," Ayato said, as he looked over to Ino. He suddenly then zoomed towards Ino to the side of her ear before saying, "I'm sorry." Then Ayato disappeared in a flash, leaving a stunned Ino behind. Location: Fraz. No, it can't be. The invasion failed. Konoha lives and so do the people who live there. Fraz said in shock and disbelief. He clenched his fists and looked down on the ground in shame. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Nell. I failed you," he said in disappointment to himself with a hint of anger in his voice. Location: Naruto, Sakura, Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Kisame. Kisame watched the flare rising up in the air before falling back down slowly, signaling that the battle was over. "Damn, and just before we were gonna get to the good part too," Kisame said in disappointment, as he looked at Jiraiya and Tsunade. "Let's just call this prohibition for now. I will come back and so will Orochimaru," Kisame said, before his entire body went, poof. With the Sound shinobi gone and Konoha safe, all Tsunade and Jiraiya did was look at Sakura, who was over Naruto's body hugging him, tears in her eyes hoping that he was okay. Location: Konoha, specific location: Konoha's hospital. It's been 3 weeks since the Chunin exams incident, 3 weeks since Orochimaru was defeated and had to leave with a retreat, 3 weeks since these events transpired. Naruto, the nine-tailed Jinchuriki who was part of the main plot to destroy Konoha, was resting on a hospital bed. It was in a room where usually there would be 2 beds rather than 1. The person next to Naruto's bed who was also in bed was Jiraiya, who was busy writing his novel. Jiraiya was wearing a hospital gown. Bandages all over his shoulders and forearms which were wrapped in order to keep the wounds on his gut sealed tight. Jiraiya was writing with a pencil, before sighing, dropping his book on his lap as he looked at Naruto with a smile. Next to Naruto on his left side was a small glass filled with water with a flower in it. Sakura had been visiting Naruto for 3 weeks straight, replacing the flower every time she visited. Right now, Sakura was by Naruto's side, holding his hand which was now over the covers, resting there. She wanted him to wake up soon, she needed him. She felt incredibly guilty that he saved her again from another enemy, this time from Kisame, which almost cost him his life. "Well, brat, you have the girl you love by your side. Hopefully you are happy," Jiraiya thought as he looked at Kunoichi getting closer to Naruto. Location: Hokage's tower, specific location: Tsunade's office. Damages: Tsunade asked her assistant Shizune. "Well, with the exception of the wall, it looks like the homes were more damaged than the rest of the village. We may need to organize small camps for the refugees until we repair the whole village again." Shizune replied, explaining to Tsunade the situation. What about the casualties? Tsunade asked, regret in her voice. Here is the list of those who died excluding Sand and Sound Shinobi. Shizune replied as she handed a clipboard to Tsunade. Tsunade sighed with deep regret and heartbreak as she looked at the list. The number of people that died weren't as high as the number who died in the previous attack, but they were still a sad sight to see. Arrange funeral preparations. Also, get someone to sign a bunch of names on the memorial stone too, it might be a full day's worth of work. Tsunade ordered her subordinate. Hi Tsunade-sama, Shizune said with a bow, before leaving with a saddened face to arrange events. Kakashi, who opened the door when Shizune was about to leave, then entered per Tsunade's orders, allowing Shizune to leave. Kakashi looked at the face of his friend before saying, that bad huh? Tsunade only sighed in frustration before saying, yes, unfortunately. Sometimes I ask myself this, Kakashi. I ask myself, what's the point in all of this fighting when all it does is spill blood? Tsunade spoke to her friend. Honestly, Tsunade-sama, I don't think there is an answer to that question. Kakashi said as he closed his eyes in sadness. Tsunade sighed. Even if this fight wasn't as devastating as the last one that took place half a year ago, it doesn't make any difference that we still suffered losses in this fight. Tsunade was holding her head with the back of her hands, which were connected while her elbows were on her desk. What's more worrying is the fact that Orochimaru is still at large. Even when he lost his arms, there are still plenty of ways he could attack us with or without them, especially if Sound's technology keeps improving. Tsunade sighed. To make matters even far worse, the Akatsuki Jiraiya had been hunting down as working with Orochimaru, him acting as their leader. Tsunade said. Is there something you are suggesting, Tsunade-sama? Kakashi asked. Yes, Kakashi, there is, Tsunade replied. I have a feeling this isn't the end. But I think this is the beginning. Tsunade said. The beginning of what? Kakashi asked. I have no idea. Tsunade replied. That's the tarrying part. Tsunade said. Anyway, enough of that, I have good news for the teams and their members on this list here. Tsunade said as she placed a clipboard down on her desk, showing Kakashi with her fingers on what she was referring to. Kakashi looked at the names and couldn't be prouder of his team. Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke are hereby promoted as Chunins. Tsunade said. Along with others, Ino Yakamana, Neji Hyuga, Hinata Hyuga, Rock Lee and Tenten. Tsunade announced to Kakashi as added detail. That'll be all, Tsunade said, as Kakashi left the office then the building. Location. Memorial Stone. Outside the Leaf Village was a large stone the size of a lifeboat. This large stone may not be much to the naked eye from a distance, but look closely, you'll see the names of all those in Konoha that died as shinobi as their duty to protect the Leaf Village. This has turned to many things, a tourist attraction and a gravestone with multiple names. There had always been so many who visited this stone, either if it was for sightseeing or paying respects. But no one could be compared to the amount of time Kakashi Hatake had spent on the stone looking at the names of his two teammates over and over again and again. But he would not be alone this time. Sasuke was there, kneeling before the stone looking at the names of his own parents. I was expecting to be here alone, Kakashi said, but it looks like I'll have some company here. Kakashi said as he walked next to Sasuke, looking at the stone. I just wanted to pay my respects, Sasuke said to his sensei. It's strange for me to be here, Sasuke said in sadness. When I was first brought here, Itachi was the one that took me. He told me all about honor as a shinobi and the tolls that are paid. I'd always admire him for that. Sasuke gave a brief pause. But after what happened to my clan, I just don't know anymore, Sasuke said. It was there. I had it. The chance to avenge mother's and father's deaths along with the rest of my clan, but I didn't take it, Sasuke said. Kurenai told me what Hinata told her. Itachi offered his life to you in exchange you kill the Hyuga heiress as well. But I heard you didn't. Someone who lost so much never took the chance to kill his murderer. Why was that? Kakashi asked, looking at Sasuke with a lazy expression in his eye. Because I already lost too much. Sasuke replied immediately. I lost so much, sensei. Ever since then there was a spark of happiness inside me that died that day, but, in recent events, somehow that changed. I started to feel happiness and started to feel comfortable for the first time in years. Comfortable. It was only when, Sasuke said, giving another brief pause from his explanation. Hinata got into your life. Kakashi finished for Sasuke. Yes. Sasuke said, avoiding eye contact with Kakashi still. She's like my mother. Sasuke said. When I needed help, she was there. Her smile is beautiful just like mother's was. She has a strong determination like her mother did. Sasuke said. So Hinata, is that important to you then, huh? Kakashi asked. Sasuke nodded. Revenge was the only thing I had, sensei, the only thing that made me move on, but I can see now that revenge doesn't help you to move on instead. Kakashi cut Sasuke's sentence off. It keeps you frozen in time. Kakashi finished with Sasuke's sentence. I know that too well, Sasuke, Kakashi said. There's something I need to tell you, something I was planning on revealing to you, Naruto and Sakura. Kakashi said. And what would that be? Sasuke looked at Kakashi for the first time in a while. That would be the true reason I am late for our team meeting, Sasuke. Kakashi informed. Look closer at the stone with this name. Kakashi walked up to the stone pointing at a name on the monument. Sasuke looked closer to see a name, the name saying, Rin. Rin. Sasuke said in confusion. Team 7 was the name I was a part of, Sasuke. It was Team the 4th Hokage, or as you would know him. Instead, as Naruto's father, was our sensei at the time, Kakashi explained. The reason you never saw any of the other members of the former Team 7 is because they are all dead with the exception of me. Kakashi explained further. I lost a friend who was much like Naruto. He had a belief in the Hokages of the past and his goal in life was to become the next Hokage. He died on a mission protecting me and Rin, the girl he loved. Kakashi's voice was now sounding in grief. Rin cared about me and my friend. She cared a lot about us, enough that she was willing to give her life for Sasuke. Kakashi explained. When my friend Sasuke died, I was enraged. Every time I was in battle, I promised myself that every enemy shinobi I killed was in his honor. In other words, I too vowed revenge. Kakashi said as he placed his hand over the name of his fallen friend and rubbed it. I took my anger out on every enemy we faced during the Third Shinobi War. I was beyond angry. Kakashi said. Every time I killed a shinobi in anger and vengeance, I inflicted wounds on the person my friend wanted me to promise I'd protect with my life, Rin. Every time she saw me kill, she was in pain. Watching her friend killing mindlessly out of rage and anger, she saw that I was becoming more of a murderer than an avenger. Kakashi's guilt was clear for Sasuke's ears to read by this point. The day came when I completely lost all sense of who I was. I was prepared to create a massacre, Sasuke. If that happened, I would have been truly a monster, but Rin. She. Kakashi said as he clenched his fist into a ball after letting go of the stone. She used herself as a human shield. I killed her by mistake. Do you know how old she was when I accidentally killed her? Kakashi looked at Sasuke with a calm eye. She was around the same age as Sakura. Kakashi finished. She never reached the rank of a genin because I killed her. I broke a very important promise. I made her last moments alive miserable. I was truly a monster. Kakashi finally finished his sentence. So that's why you were trying to convince me of revenge, Sasuke said in realization. You wanted to make sure history never repeats itself a second time. You wanted what's best for us. Sasuke said. Yes, when I look at you, Sasuke, I see myself. When I look at Naruto, I see my friend. When I look at Sakura, I see Rin. It's almost like history really is repeating itself, but I did not want to make the same mistakes as I did in the past. Kakashi said. After I woke up in the hospital from my battle which ended in Rin's death, I made a new vow. I vowed to never allow such things to happen again. That'll try to make sure that the events that happened to me never happen again to anybody else. Kakashi said. I visit this site because it holds my friends' names. They were too young to die, they were too young to go away, I never wanted any of that to happen again. Kakashi explained. Revenge, something that was meant to solve problems, but, Sasuke said. All it does is make them worse. Kakashi finished Sasuke's sentence. Now that I think of it, I heard from Shikamaru about Ayato. Sasuke said. You mean the fact he's a Namikaze vowing for vengeance against Konoha? I heard. Kakashi said. It was quite clear for Sasuke now. Revenge was truly a curse, something people would say would make things better, even solve problems, but they never do. Sasuke's path of revenge has truly now met its end. And it was all thanks to Naruto's attempted leave. Location. Hokage's tower, specific location, council chambers. There was an uproar as per usual in the council chambers. Obviously, it was all about the sound invasion. Tsunade, who was sitting on her chair, had a popped vein showing her irritation due to the council's non-stop nagging. We should send an invasion force to sound immediately before they could mount another invasion against us. One civilian council member said. Are you crazy? Sum exclaimed. We can't mount any attack against a village we're not sure where it is. Even if we did attack another shinobi village without consulting our allies, it would be bad. Sum argued with crossed arms. What are we supposed to do? They got so close to destroying our home and village we were ready to evacuate. Another council member said. This time it wasn't that bad. Shikaku said. The last invasion was a lot worse than this. Shikaku added. How can you say that when they almost took control of the nine-tailed Jinchuriki's mind into destroying our home village? Another member of the civilian council argued. While things may look bad, we managed to drive the invaders away thanks to our guests from the Sand Village. Inoichi said. But what about the Akatsuki, which is made up of the powerful missing shinobi? Also, there's our second Namikaze survivor, Ayato Usagi Kase, or at least now known as Ayato Usagi Namikaze. A member of the civilian council said. They have a point, Inoichi. Hiyashi said as he stood up from his seat. Sound may have grown more powerful now, perhaps they are at league with the power of an elemental nation's strength. My best guess is that they didn't want to pour all of their resources into one invasion, which is why they wanted the nine-tailed Jinchuriki to do their dirty work for them. I say we need to listen to what Danzo has to say about this. Hiyashi said, before sitting back down. I'd say we need to follow up the requests I made to the previous Hokages who had denied them, and Danzo was cut off by Tsunade. They will come true if you ever become Hokage, Danzo. Tsunade said. We managed to drive out the invading forces from our village walls thanks to the help of Sand, who had just returned back to their home. It seems Orochimaru is the true source of our problems. Tsunade shifted her eyes to Danzo. To be honest with you, Danzo, as far as I'm concerned, you were the one feeding Orochimaru that he will become Hokage someday. You did say that to him, did you not? Tsunade said, which earned her silence from Danzo. I have another thing to ask about. Where were you and Hayashi Hyuga when the invasion started? In fact, I haven't seen you since halfway through the finals of the Chunin exams also. In fact, where were the Root Anbu anyway? I never saw one member on our streets defending our village like they were supposed to. Tsunade narrowed her eyes at Danzo, which earned more silence from the War Hawk. Tsunade sighed before turning her attention to the council. At any rate, Sum Inuzuka has a point. We have no idea where the village hidden in the sound is. Even if we did have the knowledge of its location, we cannot mount an attack without consulting our allies first, or have any information about that village. Tsunade said with crossed arms. We don't even have one lead to follow after their fallen shinobi had self-destructed after the invasion, wearing paper bomb seal on their clothing. We'll just have to let time do the work for us for now. Tsunade explained to the council. As much as the Shinobi Council along with Tsunade wanted to avenge their fallen by attacking Sound, they couldn't. Shinobi laws and rules prevented them from attacking even if they did know where the village hidden in the Sound was located. All they could do was wait and see. Location: Konoha streets, specific location, near the gates of the village. They're sitting on a bench near the gates of Konoha at a secluded location. Sat Ino Yakamana on a bench looking down on the ground in sadness. Shikamaru and Choji had just arrived after looking for their teammate for a while. Choji was the first to say, "What's wrong, Ino?" "Nothing, Choji. Nothing," Ino responded to her teammate. "It's about Ayato, isn't it?" Shikamaru said. Ino nodded. By the end of the day, Ino was involved in the invasion. He was the one that would have taken Naruto's mind under his control. "He was our enemy," Shikamaru said. "He protected me in the Chunin exams." Shikamaru, "He even protected me from his own friend. I don't think he's that bad of a person." Ino argued. "I mean, look at him. He lost his parents because of Konoha Shinobi. We were the ones that took them away from him." She took a brief pause. "And isn't it strange that he decided to take his time fighting us rather than going through with the plan?" Ino said. "If he really wanted to finish his job, it should have been more important than fighting us. I think he was buying time for us," Ino said to her Nara teammate. "Still, he attacked us," Shikamaru said. "Only because he was ordered to. I don't think he never wanted to hurt any of us. He never killed any shinobi here and he never intended to kill Naruto either," Ino said. "Speaking of Naruto, how is he?" Choji asked Shikamaru. "Last time I visited him was yesterday," Shikamaru replied. "We shouldn't expect him to wake up anytime soon. He was stabbed by a trident made out of ice and water. I'm sure he's still asleep today," Shikamaru replied to Choji. "I hope Naruto gets better sooner than later." Choji said. "I'm worried." Location: with Naruto. Returning back to the hospital where the unconscious Naruto lay. Naruto's eyes started to twitch a bit, signaling to Sakura that he was just getting up. She immediately moved back, gasping, as Naruto started to lean forward from his bed while rubbing the back of his head with a tired expression in his eyes. Naruto moved his head towards Sakura's location and said, "Sakura-chan. What happened?" Sakura had tears in her eyes before she threw her arms around Naruto's neck and said, "Idiot. Don't scare me like that ever again." Naruto was shocked at first but then returned the hug to Sakura. I actually thought. I thought you were gone this time," Sakura said. "But I didn't. I'm sorry if I scared you so much." Naruto apologized softly. His eyes shot open for the second time in realization and backed away from Sakura in worry as he said frantically, "The invasion. We need to relax, brat," Jiraiya said to his student. "We cleaned that mess up 3 days ago," Jiraiya informed. "Wait. Did you say 3 days, pervy sage? How long have I been asleep?" Naruto exclaimed with shock. "Like I said, 3 whole days you were out for, Naruto. That business we had with Sound has been long over now," Jiraiya said. "So, is the Sound done?" Naruto asked, now calming down. "Not really. They escaped before we could get any information out of them," Jiraiya replied. "But I have a feeling that this may not be the last we see of those guys again." Jiraiya added that note to Naruto. "For now, we're gonna take it easy. You may need the time to rest now. It may take a while before you become a full-fledged shinobi," Jiraiya said, which confused both Naruto and Sakura. "What do you mean, pervy sage?" Naruto said with a confused expression on his face. "Sakura, do you mind letting me speak to Naruto in private? This is something he needs to hear alone," Jiraiya said to Kunoichi, who nodded and then left. "Well, Naruto, since I came back to Konoha after being gone for so long, you came to me, forcing me to train you," Jiraiya said. "I'd thought you weren't really worth much of my time, but the following months that came by showed me that I was wrong. You have grown smarter, stronger and more skilled than the day you graduated from your shinobi course. Which is why I decided to make you an apprentice of mine." Jiraiya explained to the now shocked nine-tailed Jinchuriki. You have also been promoted to Chunin, along with your other teammates and a handful of your friends as well. This news shocked Naruto even more. You're not exactly met with the strength a regular Chunin has, Naruto. But with a little bit of training I'll make you a powerful and strong shinobi in no time. Jiraiya added. Pervy Sage, I don't know what to say. A stunned Naruto said in wide-eyed and shocked. Don't. In fact, don't say anything at all. You might wanna save that strength until the trip we leave in a week's time. Jiraiya said. Leave? What are you talking about? Naruto asked his sensei in confusion. Well, Jiraiya replied, as he turned his look from happy to serious. Naruto, do you know what I do for a living? Or what do I do as my job at all? Jiraiya asked. Look at naked girls all day and think dirty thoughts. Naruto replied simply with his arms crossed, giving Jiraiya an annoyed expression. Besides that, brat, Jiraiya yelled in anger with an anime-like look. His expression changed back to normal as he looked at Naruto. Seriously? Jiraiya grunted. That's a hobby of mine and a part-time job. My true job is spying on Naruto. Jiraiya said. Naruto lifted his finger, prepared to say something but Jiraiya stopped him. And it's not just looking at girls, okay? Jiraiya said in irritation. My true job is spying on enemy shinobi like the Akatsuki. Jiraiya said. You remember Itachi and Kisame, don't you? Jiraiya said, giving narrowed eyes to Naruto, who started to remember with a sad expression on his face. Itachi. He was the one who hurt Sasuke Tem. And Kisame was the guy that tried to kill Sakura-chan. Naruto said. They wore matching outfits when I first met them, Naruto said. Those outfits, Naruto, represented the Akatsuki's main symbol. They are a mysterious organization made from Triple S class rogue shinobi. Jiraiya said. Triple S class? Naruto said in confusion. Those are the type of rogue shinobi you would want to stay as far away from as possible. You remember Zabuza, am I correct? Jiraiya asked. Yes. Naruto replied. He was a rogue shinobi too. But compare him to someone like Itachi or Kisame, he's basically nothing at all. The strength of even one of those two makes Zabuza look like a baby. Jiraiya explained, which shocked Naruto. So, what you're telling me is, they are more powerful than Zabuza? Naruto exclaimed. Jiraiya nodded. A lot more powerful than him. Jiraiya confirmed. Believe it or not, there are 10 of those monsters who exist in that organization. Orochimaru is one of them, but he was not the leader. Not when I received this information from my spies. He gave a small pause. Though I should reevaluate my information considering the fact that Orochimaru is now the leader of the organization. Jiraiya said. Anyway, I have found out what they were after, Naruto. They are after the Jinchurikis. That includes both you and Gaara. Jiraiya said. You have no idea how strong you really are, Naruto. Jiraiya added. A single Jinchuriki has enough power to destroy an entire village like Konoha single-handedly if they wanted to. Add all of the other 8, then you have an unstoppable force which can destroy even an entire country in a single night. Jiraiya said. That's powerful, Naruto said in shock. Yes, you are. Jiraiya confirmed. Honestly, Naruto, there are a lot of ways one can use the Jinchurikis for anything. Jiraiya added. Hey pervy sage, I need to ask you something. How long will we be gone for? Naruto said. We'll be gone, Naruto. Forever. Jiraiya said, with the most serious tone he could use on his students. Location. Konoha's hospital, specific location, Naruto's and Jiraiya's hospital room. What are you saying, pervy sage? I can never come home again, Naruto said as he had eyes that told Jiraiya disbelief and sadness. Jiraiya still kept his serious face, before it started to fall by him smiling, before he finally burst into laughter. You're so easy to trick, Naruto. I mean, come on. I never intended to do that. Jiraiya laughed. It was a joke. Naruto yelled angrily at his mentor. Yeah, I mean, I still have to do research in Konoha. How do you expect me to do that if I have to go away forever? Jiraiya laughed even more. You're such a pervert, Naruto yelled. Jiraiya's laughing expression was gone when he changed it to a serious look one more time. But we are gonna be gone for a long time, Naruto. Jiraiya spoke. How long are we talking about? Days? Weeks? Month? Naruto asked. Years, Jiraiya replied, which made Naruto's eyes go wide in slight shock. Why years? Naruto exclaimed. Did you really think it was gonna be a quick job to make you a full-fledged shinobi? Jiraiya said. I said I would make you one. I'm now telling you how much time it's actually gonna take, and it will take a few years. Jiraiya explained to Naruto. I'm guessing maybe around 2 to 3 years. Jiraiya. Why can't we just train here? Naruto asked frantically. The Leaf Village. Told you I got work to do. I have a spy network to run and I can't just travel from there to back here over and over again and again. Naruto. Too much of a hassle, it's easier this way. Besides, you're not the first person to leave Konoha and go on a temporary training trip and return. Even your sensei, Kakashi, had once left Konoha and returned back. Even our previous Kages left Konoha for a small while before returning back stronger than ever. Jiraiya replied, giving a comfortable speech to Naruto. Consider this another stepping stone to your journey of becoming Hokage. Jiraiya said. But Shikamaru, Sasuke Tem, Hinata, Kiba, Akamaru, even Sakura-chan, Naruto said sadly in the last part. The previous Hokages had to leave their loved ones behind for a while in order to get stronger in order to protect them, Naruto. Jiraiya said, getting a little bit more serious. You remember Kisame, am I correct? He almost killed you and your girlfriend, Sakura. Naruto, you will be going against enemies like this more often, if not more powerful than either Orochimaru or Kisame combined. He looked at Naruto with a stern look. The Hokage isn't just our leader, they are our powerhouse, the true protector of our village. When our shinobi forces fail, our Junin elite fail or even the Sanins fail, it is up to the Hokage's job to defend us when all has failed. Jiraiya said, if you can't defeat someone like Kisame by yourself, how can you defend the entire Leaf Village if we were to face an enemy much stronger than him? Jiraiya said to Naruto. All I'm trying to say to Naruto is that you need to get stronger no matter what. Jiraiya said. But, I'm leaving my friends behind, they're my family, they are all I have left. If I leave them behind, I'm going against my ninja way, I don't want to desert anybody. Naruto argued. That was my ninja way too. Jiraiya said softly, which shocked Naruto. It still is today. My ninja way to never abandon my friends or my family, has been my determination for years since I became a shinobi, Jiraiya said, as he looked at Naruto again. I have never seen my parents face Naruto, I have no idea who they are or what they even look like. All I know is that my family was always Sarutobi-sensei, Kakashi, Tsunade, Orochimaru, or once was, Jiraiya said. Naruto, to leave the ones you love behind is something I wouldn't wish for anybody. But if you want to get stronger, then this is the only way to go. Jiraiya said. When do we leave? Naruto asked in a sad voice. I said before, a while soon. Jiraiya replied. To be honest, I might change the schedule a bit considering how emotional you are. It's better now than never. 2 days. Jiraiya explained. I'll let you say your goodbyes and give you some time to rest. Jiraiya said. Jiraiya stood from his bed, as he began to walk towards the door. I'll see you at the gates in a few days. Jiraiya said, before he left the room to the changing room. Sakura was standing there, listening to the whole conversation. Why you're leaving? Sakura asked in sadness. Sakura-chan. Naruto replied. I'm sorry. I know I promised you we would always be together, but I couldn't defend you, Naruto said. I couldn't protect you from that Kisame guy, I couldn't. I couldn't protect you, Naruto explained himself to Sakura. So, You think leaving me behind will make a difference? You think by just leave me, Sakura said, her voice rising high. Are you going to leave the village? Sakura said in a slightly angered tone. I need to get stronger. I don't want to leave Konoha, I really don't. But if it makes me stronger then I need to take that chance. Zabuza, Orochimaru, Itachi, Kisame. They're all so powerful. Kakashi-sensei, Sasuke Tem. I don't want anybody else to get hurt. This power, Naruto said, as he gripped his chest. All of this power I have, I'm not using it properly. I want to learn to control this power and not end lives with it. I almost killed you, Naruto said. You can forget about that incident. I forgave you when that happened the second it happened. Sakura said. But, you promised you'll be with me always, I gave you that promise too. Promise of a lifetime, Sakura said, sounding angered. Her angered expression hurt Naruto to the core. It made him bad for leaving Sakura like this. Well, talk to me when you make a decision. With that said, Sakura stormed the room out angrily. Sakura-chan. Wait, Naruto said, as he held an arm out for Sakura, trying to reach her but to no avail. I want to protect you, Naruto said, sadly. Location: Tsunade's office. In the main office of the Hokage, Tsunade had just drank her 20th cup of sake, feeling upset over the council meeting she'd just had. She slammed her cup down on her desk, she hiccuped, and then she collapsed on her desk, rolling her cup down to the ground with a loud thud. She was finally gonna have some rest until, knock. 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 Who is that? She yelled in anger. Come here and tell me what you want. You want to become Hokage, just take it and leave and let me sleep. She yelled, feeling drunk. The door opened, revealing a saddened and regretful Sakura slowly walking through the door. Usually, like Shizune, Sakura would be cowering in fear of Tsunade's anger. But she didn't, she was too upset at herself to think about that. Looking at Sakura's pained expression, Tsunade looked at her with understanding eyes, and said, something wrong. A lot, Sakura said, as she sat on a seat across the Hokage. I was angry at Naruto-kun, because. Sakura tried to say but couldn't go beyond her sentence. Because he's leaving in a few days to train with Jiraiya. Tsunade finished Sakura's sentence for her. Yes, I know he needs to get stronger, but being gone for years beyond Konoha's gates when the Akatsuki and Orochimaru are after him is too dangerous. Sakura said. I just don't know what I'll do if he goes. Sakura said. To be honest with you, Sakura, training trips are usual for Konoha shinobi. I authorized a training trip for Naruto since Jiraiya wanted to train him. I know when Naruto returns, he'll be a powerful shinobi, stronger than ever before. Tsunade explained, but looking at that look on your face, I can tell it's a little bit more serious than that. She suggested. I was angry at him, Sakura admitted to the slug sage. It wasn't fair what I did to him, I know for a fact it was wrong. Sakura said. You don't need to tell me any more than you have, Sakura. I understand that you were upset. The same happened to me when the old pervert left the Leaf Village in his training journey. The only difference was that Orochimaru was gone at the time also, that was the time he betrayed Konoha. Even though you have Sasuke, I can only imagine things will be quiet with Naruto gone. Tsunade said. Look on the bright side. I only authorized Jiraiya to take Naruto away for a maximum of 3 years, no longer than that. You'll see Naruto in no time, Tsunade then chuckled, before smiling at Sakura with cocky eyes and said, besides, you are gonna be busy being my apprentice. What? Sakura said, in disbelief. You heard. Seeing your records, I'd say you have to be around the second or third smartest rookie to Shikamaru's intelligence, not only that, but you also have great chakra control. Usually women are born with the worst control over their power and energy, but you are exceptional. All you lack is combat skills, and you feel very guilty about that, I can see it. Tsunade referred. So, let me help you. Next week, you'll become my newest student. She announced. Tsunade-sama, I don't know what to say. Sakura said in disbelief, frozen in shock at what she had just heard. Say nothing, just rest for now, this will not be a picnic, I can assure you that much. Tsunade said with a smile. But what about Team 7? If I'm gonna be busy training with you, and Naruto-kun will be on his training trip, what will become of Team 7? Sakura asked her new mentor. Team 7, considering all the members will be either separate or left, will be disbanded for the time being until Naruto returns to the Leaf Village. For Sasuke, Kakashi already came here and asked if Sasuke could be put into the Anbu Black Ops, which makes sense considering his brother was once part of that organization. Tsunade replied, explaining the future to Sakura. I'd estimate that you, and your teammate Sasuke, will be fully trained by the time Naruto returns to the Leaf Village. Once that happens, Team 7 then can return back as a whole again. She finished. It's Goanna feels strange, so much is changing after a few months, Sakura said, in slight shock. I understand, Sakura. I felt that way too once. Tsunade said. Like you, many things changed for me in a few months also. At one stage, I was a genin, then I became a sannin at quite a young age, 3 years after I graduated the academy and became a genin. Sometimes, Sakura, you need to take a dive. She said. What I mean by that, is that sometimes, you need to take a dive into the changes in your life. It might be difficult, sometimes even strange where you don't belong, but eventually you'll get used to it. Still, things are gonna be difficult, especially when Team 7 does return. Sakura said. I know, Sakura, I know. Tsunade said, before she walked around her desk and hugged Sakura, showing that she understood Sakura's words. Location. Hospital, specific location, Naruto's room. Later, after Sakura's conversation with Tsunade in her office, she went to Naruto's hospital room. Naruto-kun, Sakura said, as she slowly opened the door, to see a shocked Naruto looking at her. Sakura-chan, what are you doing? Naruto asked, shocked. It was obvious to Sakura why Naruto was shocked to see her. It was due to their last conversation that made Naruto believe that she wouldn't come back, since she was angry at him for leaving soon. I came here to apologize, Sakura replied slowly. I came here because I'm sorry for being angry at you like that. I know you want to go on this trip to protect me. Sakura said, if you want an answer from me why I was angry, it was because things change. She said, it felt like years rather than months since you, me, Sasuke, all formed Team 7. I was raised mainly by my mom, so I never knew my dad's face ever. I considered everyone in Team 7, my family, you, Sasuke, even Kakashi-sensei, and I'm upset because soon there won't be a Team 7. Sakura finished, with a sad expression on her face. What do you mean by that? Naruto asked in a confused expression. You haven't heard, haven't you? Sasuke is joining the Anbu Black Ops to follow in his brother's footsteps. I will be training with Tsunade-sama, and you'll be gone for around 3 years. Team 7 will be disbanded temporarily until then, Sakura replied, explaining to Naruto what's happening. To say Naruto was surprised would be an understatement, he was shocked with a sad expression on his face. But, Granny Tsunade can't just disband the team. Naruto said, worriedly. I know, but how can you call any of us a team if we're not there to hold it together? With you leaving there cannot be a team no matter what way you look at it. Sakura said to Naruto, who looked down on the ground with his eyes in defeat with a hint of sadness. But, Team 7 is the only thing that's considered to be my family. For years, I wanted a family, but I could never get one, and finally, I had you guys, but that will be taken away too. Naruto said, before Sakura came in to hug him. No one's taking us away from Naruto-kun. We'll be gone but only for a while, I'm sure we'll see each other again. I love you, Sakura said, as she came in for a second hug, and kissed on Naruto's lips for as long as they could keep up. Neither one was in a rush to finish it, they wanted this connection to last as long as possible as they could keep it. Because they knew they wouldn't get another chance like this in a long time. Time skip. Departure day. Naruto walked towards the gates of Konoha, where Sakura, Sasuke and Kakashi were waiting for him, ready to say their goodbyes. Naruto had his backpack on, he was holding onto the straps. Jiraiya was right behind him with a smile on his face with his arms crossed. Naruto walked up to Sasuke. Well, Dobi, this is it, see you later, Sasuke said. I'll be back. When I do, I'll be much stronger than you, Tem, Naruto said with a smile on his face. We'll see about that, Sasuke said with a smile on his face. Naruto looked at Kakashi. Kakashi-sensei, I have no idea how long it's going to be, but thank you for helping me to discover my chakra natures. Naruto thanked, giving Kakashi a bow. Good luck, Naruto, Kakashi said. And Sakura-chan. Naruto walked up to Sakura. I promise, when I return, we can go on a second date together. Naruto said. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Sakura said, before they kissed. Well, goodbye, tell the others that I said goodbye to them too, okay? Naruto said. They all nodded. Naruto and Jiraiya walked out of the gates of Konoha. Naruto turned around, to see his team still standing there, waving goodbye. Naruto waved back. This was the last time he would see them in a while, before he walked off towards the distance. Naruto was out of sight. Kakashi and Sasuke had already left back in the Leaf Village, but Sakura was the only one who remained there, waiting for what seemed like forever, looking at the distance to where Naruto had left. She smiled, before she walked away as well. Location. Unknown. Specific location. Unknown. So, the plan failed. Danzo, sitting on a chair that was behind a large circular table, said. Hiashi, who was sitting next to Danzo, said, indeed, despite our best efforts, Konoha still stands along with their poor ruling the Leaf Village. A dark figure that was across the table then spoke, we should have never allowed the Akatsuki to join the invasion even if they were extra support. It was because of you, Kisame, that the plan failed. Kisame, who was sitting at another edge of the table, then protested, my fault. Ayato was the one who was meant to cast the genjutsu, instead he fought Team 10 for who knows what reason. Even though it was your problem, Kisame. This is why you should never trust a fish man in the first place. A spiky-haired figure said. Shut up, Deidara. You have no place to talk after blowing up a few empty buildings for no good reason. Kisame growled at his Akatsuki teammate. Enough. Danzo yelled, as he slammed his cane on the ground, causing the members to look at him. The plan failed. Obviously, we didn't expect Sand to get involved with Konoha's issues or problems. We should have eliminated the council and the one-tailed Jinchuriki when we had the chance, when tensions with Konoha were high. That way, the Sand Arm and Sound Army could unite as one once again and eliminate Konoha. Danzo said. All you want to do, Danzo, is to become the next leader of the village. You don't care about us or about how much of a cost this is to Sound. The Otokage argued. Do you have any idea how much money we poured into new research ideas to fight Konoha? Do you have any idea how much we had to pay? Do you know how bad this could have been a blow to the Sound? The Otokage said. Of course not. Sound's income comes from the bandits, shinobi raids along with pirates. Even some of the elemental villages like Cloud and Rock are paying a fortune for Sound's weapons and devices. Danzo said. True. But we have lost a few of our forces. The Otokage said. A small loss compared to what we may have just gained. A voice chuckled. Everyone on the table turned their attention to the man who said it. It was none other than Orochimaru, sitting on a throne made of skinned snakes, where the handles were decorated as snakes as well. Since the Kyuubi's chakra had spread over the arena, I ordered some of our spies to collect them with Kabuto. We can now create our own artificial Jinchuriki. Orochimaru said. That, and then the main plan will come, Orochimaru said. Yes, the plan that will change the shinobi world for the better, the one plan that will change the whole world, Danzo said. Plan, new world, Hayashi finished. As one darkness falls, another begins to rise. More powerful and more dangerous than the last. Time skip. 2.5 years later, location, Konoha Gates, specific location, Konoha's entrance. Jiraiya, the Toad Sage, walked up to the gates of Konoha with his arms crossed and a smile on his face. He looked up at the Hokage's faces and saw his student's face. Well, Minato, he's grown up now. I know for a fact if you and Kushina were still alive today here and now, I'd just know that you two would be really proud of him. Jiraiya said in a proud tone that told how he felt towards Naruto. He grew stronger, stronger than when you were his age. A lot has happened over the past few years. Orochimaru returned, Tsunade's back as the Hokage, Sarutobi-sensei died, and your son almost ran away from the Leaf Village. He looked at the fourth's head a little closer. But just so you know, he had found friends, people who he could call a family. He finally can be happy. Plus, he has a girlfriend now. Jiraiya said with a smile on his face. From time to time they wrote letters to each other, constantly. When I told Naruto we were coming back he was excited, he couldn't contain his happiness any longer than he did. He said, you know something, their team really reminds me of your old team, my team. They all act as one big happy family despite the fact they aren't related by blood of any kind. He chuckled, looking down at the ground with closed eyes before looking back up. This time his view was centered at the Leaf Village. A lot has changed in a short amount of time. As I heard, Sasuke, Naruto's former rival, has made a name for himself in the Anbu Black Ops, also that Hyuga girl did the same thing when she joined soon after she had become a Chunin. He paused briefly. Sakura had become a great medic thanks to her mentor Tsunade, though I am a little bit worried that she may pick up the old hag's mental anger. He said with slight fear in his voice. He swallowed up that fear and kept his smile. But other than that, it's just so good to be back home. Looks like they finally repaired the Leaf Village after the attack, and Tsunade's head is finally on the mountain. Jiraiya said. Jiraiya chuckled before saying, although she may have lied about her looks, she definitely doesn't look like that at all, not in the slightest. In a far location from where Jiraiya was at, inside the Leaf Village, was a dark figure that jumped from building to building. The once debris that laid across the village to the Sound invasion years ago was cleared up, it was no longer there. Some buildings had to be rebuilt from scratch, some were able to fix them. Konoha had once again stood tall and great once again after an attack that was similar to the Sand Sound invasion 3 years ago. Everything was once as it was those years ago. The figure gave what seemed like an iconic smirk when he jumped on a rooftop belonging to one of Konoha's buildings, where he got the best view he could have of the entire village. He looked at Tsunade's head, and smiled even bigger, happy that the old Hokage Sannin finally got her head among the other Hokages, now forever a piece of history for Konoha. The whole village seemed quiet, very quiet. He was not surprised though. He knew it would be quiet considering that he left Konoha for so long and their beloved loud-mouthed knuckle-headed shinobi was gone. The figure stepped closer to the edge where he started to gain his true color. His spiky hair was blonde, and he was tanned. It was no one other than everyone's favorite nine-tailed Jinchuriki. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Older, and wiser. The Chunin looked around himself at the village before him, happy he was finally home, happy to see his loved ones again. Naruto then grew excitement in his eyes, then flung his arms and gave a small yell. Oh Konoha, I'm back. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Believe it. Yeah, Naruto said in a cheerful tone. He was no longer Konoha's hated Jinchuriki. He was no longer the demon everyone despised so much. He was a different person entirely now. He was no longer Konoha's runaway demon. He was Konoha's proud demon. To be continued. This was just the beginning, the real secret will unfold in the next episode. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And hit the bell icon so you'll be the first to see what happens next. See you again in the next journey of Uzumaki Empire 2.0.